I explode into motion, fueled by panic and terror. As is our habit, I sleep when most of the rest of the team is awake to ensure that while the longest range scout is down, we are at our best versus potential ambushes. This time, I had been in a particularly deep and comfortable sleep thanks to Matteo curling around me like a loyal snake monster cocoon. I think I was even having a nice dream for once, though I don't really remember it. This all ends in an instant as Alan's soul becomes dust. Body raging and tentacles writhing, I leap over Matteo's flank and burst towards Nora and Bentley, furious scream ripping itself from my throat. "You fucking monsters!" I shriek, tackling Bentley in the gut. "You dusted him. You killed him permanently." Bentley staggers backwards but catches me without falling, grabbing my comparatively tiny wrists and struggling to fight my soul-enhanced strength. Snarling, I wrap tendrils around his core, causing him to immediately drop me in terror. Should I do it? Do I kill him? No, what am I thinking? It's Bentley. I can't. But why would they do this? How could they do this? "Vita!" Nora shouts. "Vita, stop. He told us to. Look, I'll show you." She points in front of the body. "Oh fuck, he's dust. He's nothing but dust now." My beautiful cake full of swords, and my eyes focus on part of the ground that looks like someone scratched half a conversation with a stick into the dirt. "Hello to you too, Nora. I am all right, all things considered. Yourself? Strange, but not as bad as you'd think." "I do, yes. Just a nice, normal conversation. Alan can't talk but he can write." There's no one writing back. Nora and Bentley were presumably speaking aloud and waiting politely for the words to be scratched into the dirt. The conversation continues, neat and orderly. It doesn't take long until it's about me. Miss Vita is an odd sort, but a good sort. In general? Well, animancy is illegal of course. I don't think there's any need to worry about Miss Vita. My good, loyal revenants. I know I shouldn't think like that. I know that forcing loyalty on someone is messed up. But I also know that I love it. It's just what I am, I suppose. They are comfortable, they are safe. They are so much easier than normal people. I'm not sure. It just feels wrong to not use a title, I suppose. Nora must have asked about the name. Miss Vita. Honestly, I don't even know why so many of them like calling me that. She saved my life. Should I not be grateful? Of course you should. You're welcome. I suppose that isn't untrue. Why would she be messing with my head? Not on purpose. The fuck is this shit? Are they purposefully steering the conversation towards my revenants being mind-controlled? I explicitly tried to not let on. I glance up at Nora with my soul eye, physical one still reading. She's scared. No, mortified. She suspected I'd been mind-controlling for a while now and wanted to be wrong. Turns out she wasn't. I just want to live. I know the Watcher waits for me, but when I look at her I just want. Cut off, huh? Didn't even let him finish. You might be right. You're right. How did I not? I love her so much. I'm an abomination. Fuck. She twisted him. She took him from me. Okay, maybe I twisted him first. He was religious. I knew that. He probably would have agreed with Nora had he been alive. But he was wrong. Their religion is wrong. And now he's dust and he won't ever get to. Ask. You have to destroy me. No. When she wakes up I'll see her face and. Yes. I mean it. Send me to the Watcher. The others too. Free us. Fuck you, Nora. I hiss. Am I crying? Vita, he asked us to do this, Nora snaps back. You were messing with his head. Bentley and I agreed on this. This is beyond fucked up. They need to move on to the afterlife. You never told us you were. You shattered him, you stupid bitch. I shriek. Even if your god wasn't going to eat him anyway, there is nothing left. Everything was linked to the bones and you crushed them and now he's gone forever. He doesn't get an afterlife anymore. Pangs of hostility behind me caused me to tear my gaze off of Nora, rotating my inner eye completely around to stare at Matteo and Netta. The latter has knocked and drawn her bow, face furious as she aims at Nora. Matteo coils towards Bentley, power gathering in his soul as his massive body slithers forward, shaking with grief. A split second later, Orville draws his bow as well, aiming towards Matteo. Penelope, who has been napping even though she's not technically supposed to, rouses quickly, blinking twice at the scene and scowling with the sort of bland irritation she might have at an overcooked meal. "What did I miss?" she grumbles. "Two of yours killed one of ours," Netta growls, air magic already starting to swirl around her arrow. "We'll see how they like it," Matteo hisses. "Netta, hey, don't." Vil begs, swallowing nervously. "Don't make me fight you. You're being mind-controlled," Nora shouts, drawing and raising her shield. "Can't you see that?" He asked us to," Bentley whines. "He was in so much pain. He was shaking. I just thought." "Everyone shut up and stand down," I shout. Matteo halts immediately, but Netta twitches, fighting to keep her bow drawn. "Down, Netta," I snap again, and with a shudder she releases the tension in her body, pointing her weapon back down to the ground. "Do you see what I mean?" Nora hisses, gesturing to me. "Fuck you," I fume, turning my eye back her way. "I just saved your life, again, and you're fucking demonizing me for it. Again. Do you think I asked for this? Do you think I did this on purpose? This is just how my power works." "So you knew that your power mind controls people and you just didn't tell us?" Nora asks. "Is that supposed to make me feel better?" Damn it, I thought it was a good thing that Nora was finally starting to talk with the revenants and treat them like people, but it was just giving her the chance to figure out how weird being a revenant makes them. I thought it would be unfair to trap them inside me rather than let them walk around since we're in the forest anyway and everybody knows about them. Why do I keep getting my ass bitten off whenever I try to do something nice? "I'm sorry," Bentley squeaks, somehow seeming so tiny despite his massive frame. "Alan was just so scared and Nora was freaking out and Alan begged us." "He begged us to. So correct me if I'm mistaken here," Penelope chimes in, stretching and adjusting her armor as she stands. "But you're saying that someone requested an assisted suicide, someone who hadn't wanted to die mere minutes beforehand, someone that you definitively identified as being mentally compromised. And you said yes?" Bentley tries to shrink even further. "It's not a fucking suicide, he's already dead." Nora snaps. "Oh, shove it 5 feet up your ass." Netta barks. "I'm missing an eye and I can see that's bullshit." "You can't fucking tell me that Vito isn't messing with your head," Nora counters. "She literally just forced you to do something. Right in front of all of us." "Yeah, you're fucking welcome," I growl. "Of course I know that, I'm not an idiot," Netta spits back, and she probably would have spat more literally if she was still capable. "I just don't see why that means you get to stomp my teammates' bones into powder like a watch-a-damn barbarian. There are reasons for what we do, for the laws we have and the policies we follow. Hunters destroy the undead because the souls are tortured and violent, a danger to everyone. Do I look tortured or violent to you? You just aimed above my head. And you just murdered my team leader. What's your fucking point? We're all drowning in shit now, and I don't know how to swim." Part of me just wants to rip the souls out of Nora and Bentley and call it even, but I push that part down and bottle it up. What went wrong here? How can I make it right? I don't understand enough about people to know what Nora wants from me, but I have to try something. "Nora, if you had talked to me about this we could have worked something out," I try. "Then why didn't you say anything?" she counters. "Well, I was afraid you'd freak out," I defend honestly. "Which you did." "I freaked out because you didn't tell me. Why the fuck would you expect me to not freak out when I learn my friend has mind control powers?" "I don't have mind control powers," I insist. "That's cognomancy, and I can't do that. It's just that when I bring someone back from the dead, I have to take out a bit of my own soul and put it in them to make them work." "So, you've been mutilating your own soul?" Nora yelps. "Vito, we need to get you in to see someone that can help you." "You'll do no shit thing," Matteo warns, slithering closer. "Vita has made herself clear on the matter. Sicking the monster you made out of a human on me is not going to change my opinion on how badly you need help," Nora growls, activating her talent in anticipation of an attack. "I am not sicking anyone," I insist. "And don't call him a monster. My revenants are just instinctively loyal, okay? It's not on purpose. I'm trying to figure out how to fix it." "You should just be letting the Watcher fix it," Nora snaps at me. "What, like you? You didn't leave anything for the Mistwatcher to collect. I saved his soul, but you shattered it. You can't just smack someone hard enough that they don't go to the afterlife, Vita. I narrow my eyes, lips twisting into a snarl. She really thinks she knows better than me here, huh? You wanna bet? I asked coldly, walking towards her. Are you going to let the Animancer educate you on how fucking souls work? Or are you going to keep acting like I don't know as much as a random idiot preaching in a fancy hat? Vita, Nora breathes, don't make me. Don't make you what? I stare her down for a few moments, remembering to use the eyes in my head to make sure she knows it. Then I walk right past her, pull a shard from my body, and stick it into a nearby tree. The web of veins extruded from my shard twist up into each and every branch and down through the deepest root. Bodies are just objects, I tell her, projecting my voice so everyone can hear. They're special only in that when a soul is inside one, the Mistwatcher doesn't reach up to eat it. But I can technically make a zombie out of anything, as long as it isn't already alive in the way that matters. Bend towards me, Dreg. I order my tree and it obeys, branches creaking and crackling as every single one of them attempts to twist in my direction. My team watches in silence, having finally shut the fuck up. Zombies don't use eyes to see, they don't use ears to hear, they don't use noses to smell, and they don't use muscles to move. A tree can't normally move itself, but as you can see this one moves anyway because I gave it a soul, and the structure of that soul is shaped to snake through it, anchor to it, meld with it and become tangible to it and only it. The soul moves the vessel. But the vessel also moves the soul. I am furious, and I take my time with the lecture just to give myself something to help calm me down. She doesn't believe souls can break, that souls can become irrecoverable. Nora thinks she did a good thing, rather than dooming a kind man to permanent non-existence. I can't fucking believe her. I reach up to a branch, grab it, and break it off. Snap, I say. Oops, this part of the soul is broken now. Disconnected. Gone. Most souls can recover from that. Living souls aren't damaged when the body is damaged because they don't act like this, at least not usually. But in the undead, the soul is tied to each and every bit. So when you smash too much of it. I glance up at the tree. Bend, I order again. My revenants flinch, both of them twisting their bodies a little to fulfill the letter of the order, but the dreg I made from this tree has no such intelligence. The branches creak as they twist, and soon they start to break. Snapping and shattering, one by one at first, but soon they start to clatter like a waterfall to the forest floor in a horrible cacophony of death. A second of this passes until finally the tension is too much and the strength of the remaining soul is too little. My shard shatters, the tree jerking suddenly back into its prior position, well over half its limbs splintered on the ground. A small price to pay to make my point heard. No one speaks. No one even moves. It breaks, I explain. You can't put a fucking soul back together like a bunch of puzzle pieces, Nora. Souls can be sturdy. Souls can recover from a lot of damage. But when I say a soul is shattered, what I mean is that the constituent parts left of what it once was have become so small that they no longer hold form. They lose whatever fragments of memory and personhood they used to possess, returning to nothing but raw energy that can be slurped up like the last bits of stew in a bowl. That is why you can smack someone hard enough to deny them the afterlife. That is what you fucking did to Alan. That is why you needed to talk to someone that actually knows what they're doing instead of assuming that that person is you. I glower at everyone, Penelope having taken particular interest in my rant while the others just seem shocked and mildly mortified. I let the silence stretch, having already said everything I intend to. Fine, we'll do things your way, Nora manages quietly. I'm sorry. We just did what he asked us to do, what we thought was right. Yeah? She glances over to Bentley with that, who nods in agreement despite his obvious horror at the entire situation. He asked us to free the others too, Nora says slowly, but I guess you're right that it's not his call. I'll back off. You expect us to just let you get away with it? Matteo growls. He was my best friend. Seconded on that, you overgrown bitch, Netta agrees sharply. Nora glances at me and I scoff with disgust. Now she wants me to save her with mind control? As Netta and Matteo tense for combat, however, Orville, Nora, and a hesitant Bentley do the same. I'm tempted to just let them all fight it out. It's not like my revenants would lose and the whole thing would officially become not my problem. However, As I glance around, I notice behind me that Penelope shakes her head, ever so subtly. Her soul is insisting that no, fighting here would be a terrible idea. I suck on the inside of my lip and think for a second. Yeah, it's not exactly a great look if Penelope and I come back as the only survivors. Could the Templars use that as an excuse to pound through the wall of bureaucracy Penelope and her fiancé set up and start officially investigating me? It's probably not worth the risk. Sorry Matteo, Netta, but I do expect you to let her get away with it. Or at least keep her alive. On the condition, of course, that she agrees to not tell anyone when we get back to Skyhope. Vita, are you fucking serious? Nora hisses at me. Why would I not be serious? If you go and blab to the church about me, I die. It seems like a pretty serious situation to me. You're not going to fucking die. Nora insists. The Templars aren't evil maniacs. The church can help you, Vita. You're a victim, they'll understand that. Nora, I am Penelope's slave because Galdra the fucking Annihilator picked me up by the throat while a Templar captain prepared to skewer me through the spine. I can confirm that, Penelope agrees blandly. After we were nearly killed by the Mistwatcher, the High Templar blamed Vita for causing it and would have executed her on the spot if I hadn't intervened. Well, we don't have to go to Galdra at all. Nora, I intone dangerously. Do you agree to keep this secret or not? For that matter, Bentley? Orville? Penelope? Are any of you going to get me fucking killed? After only a few seconds, Orville shakes his head no and relaxes his body. I figured he would fall in my camp, considering how much he cares for Netta. Bentley caves soon after, completely crumpling under the social pressure. I'm confident he'll keep the secret. I of course already know where Penelope stands, I just didn't want to single her out via exclusion. After nearly half a minute, Nora agrees to not tell anyone as well. We pack up and we start the last leg of the journey back to Skyhope. The only problem being that Nora was lying. An hour later, I ask her again if she plans to tell anyone. She says no, still lying. Half an hour after that, I ask again. Lying. When we're almost to the edge of the forest I ask her one final time. Watch his eyes, Vita. No. I'm not going to tell anyone. Why the fuck do you keep asking? Because I can see your soul, Nora, I sigh. I told you guys that already. I can tell when you don't believe what you say. Vita, come on, don't give me that shit. I won't sell you out or betray you or whatever you're afraid of. I step in front of her, halting our progress through the forest. Nora, this is a matter of life and death for me. You know that. I need you to give me an honest answer. I did, Nora snaps. Vita, I'm serious. I feel you making justifications, I growl. You writhe and twist, you feel hard and hollow. You're lying. Vita. She starts. Give me an honest answer or I will kill you, I tell her frankly. Silence. Everyone turns to stare at me. Shock, grim resignation, fear. Agreement from Penelope, which is reassuring. Still, I don't want to do this. The last thing I want is to do this. But I will not sit back and let her get me killed, even if it means getting her first. I cannot die. Not when I'm the only hope for Penta, for Angeline, for Lynn, for Rowan, for all the kids, for every human I've picked up and stored inside me. I will not let their souls get crushed to dust by the monster that waits below. So I will not, must not die. What do you expect me to say? Nora asks me, stepping back. I step forward, tendrils coiled and ready. Tell me the truth. Change your mind before you say no again, or tell me the honest yes and let me convince you otherwise. You just want me to stand here and wait for you to convince me that animancy is okay? She asks incredulously. Yes, I say simply. I don't want to kill you, Nora, but I will not let you kill me. Hey, isn't this a little extreme? Orville hedges. She's making it about me or her, I snap. What do you expect me to do, fall over and wait to get skewered by Templars? She could be telling the truth, Bentley stammers. What if you're wrong? I'm not wrong, I answer through clenched teeth. I am very, very tired of having to explain that I'm not wrong. Vita, Nora pleads, reaching a hand out towards my shoulder, I promise you, The moment she touches me her talent activates, solidifying and hardening every joint in my armor. My whole body freezes like a statue as she kneels, bringing my body to the ground. I'm well aware that no amount of straining will allow my limbs to move the hardened shells she has created around me, even with my enhanced strength. As I'm laid carefully on my back, my revenants burst into action immediately. Yet they're too close to her. She activates her hardening talent on their bodies, something not possible for her with living flesh but apparently easy enough to use on two dead revenants at once. Her talent is strained to the absolute limit, but even the massive Matteo falls. Bentley. Nora orders. Pull them closer so I can touch them, or I won't be able to keep this up. We're going to get Vita to someone that can help and keep her safe. Okay? No one has to. What did you expect this to accomplish? I ask, and rip out her soul. Silence falls along with her body as I stand back up, cracking my neck. I nestle her inside me, carefully inserting her in that special place right next to Angeline and Penta. Nora had been my friend, one of the few I have ever had. What? I snap at my team, refusing to cry. I warned her. What did you just do? Bentley stands shaking, so overwhelmed by confusion and terror that he denies the obvious reality I made sure to keep explicitly clear. Nora's corpse lies face down in the grass and dirt of the forest, collapsed like a doll after I cut her strings. The inflexibility of her armor forces her into an awkwardly slumped over position, her knee caught under her belly and her arms played at an awkward angle that keeps her chest up off the ground. Only after a slight nudge from my boot does she finish her collapse. I killed her, I say clearly. Orville looks away. There's a slight spasm in Bentley's body as he suppresses an urge to vomit. She was our friend, Bentley whispers. Yes, I agree. She was. But she was going to get me and lots of people I care about killed. She wouldn't listen. Orville starts, his breath catching. It's so sudden. Just like that and she's gone? Sudden? I warned her. She just didn't listen to that either. Wasn't there some other way? Orville presses. I scowl at him. I tried using words. I'm not good at words, you both know that. But I mean what I say. She was going to get me killed. It was her or me if she kept pushing. I told her. I told all of you. And none of the rest of you said or did a damn thing. That shuts them up. Fine. All I need from them is to shut up. So now I have to ask again, I growl. Is anyone else going to make the same mistake? I'm going to start getting used to being stared at this rate. Orville takes a few moments, staring at what was once Nora, before slowly shaking his head. Before, he just didn't think I was in the wrong. Now there's a bit of fear mixed in, but he's smart. I don't think he'll betray me. Bentley, unfortunately, is not smart. But at this point he's broken. I watch in real time as his mind starts to unravel and snap at the seams. It's not as dramatic as it sounds, just the tearing apart of a fundamentally good person who until now saw everyone else the same way. Someone who genuinely believed that there would always be a way to resolve our conflicts. Someone who thought his axe would only ever be for big, scary monsters that thump around in forests and nightmares. Frankly, I'm not opposed to disabusing him of that ridiculous notion. So long as he doesn't seem willing to raise that axe to me, I don't care. And as I stare at him, I know there isn't a chance he'd risk losing another one of us to this. That would be too far. The puppy is still loyal. Good, I say, nodding. Next item on the agenda would be the body, then. I have an idea, but it involves Matteo and I don't want to accidentally force him into agreeing. I glance at Penelope, then indicate Nora's corpse with my head, hoping she has a similar train of thought. She smiles. Matteo, I realize this is somewhat distasteful, but would you be so kind as to take a bite out of Nora for us? She asks. Good old Penelope. I can always count on her. I mean, that's super brutal and not what I was going to say at all, but it works. Matteo squirms uncomfortably, which is honestly pretty cute to watch on a 20-foot-long murder serpent. I see the logic, but does Stastful Dose not begin to cover it? He rumbles. It would not be a proper hunter's burial. We should strip the armor, Netta says. And then we should poison the body and use it as bait. A good hunter protects the city even in death. I look around, seeing a lot of nods of assent. A hunter's death. People who die in the city tend to be burned, but a hunter's body, already out in the forest, can be used for more. It's tempting to keep Nora's body. Perhaps much later, when I no longer have to worry about her, I can put her back in it. but there's just no way to justify dragging the body back and bringing it with the others. How are we to make the case that Nora died to a monster when we have her corpse, completely intact, brought back with us to the city? We'll probably have to throw away a fair chunk of her armor for the same reason. Well, we could get Matteo to munch that probably. A lot less distasteful to smash the armor than it is to bite a human body, I suppose. I personally don't see the fuss, but I have to agree using the corpse as bait is a better idea anyway. Penelope apparently does too, as she heads over to the body to cast on it, filling it with who knows what sort of terrifying cocktail of diseases. I should still offer what I was going to, so I decide on how I'm going to word it and then do so. Before we get too far into this, I was actually going to ask if you want Nora's body, Matteo, I say. He has been getting a lot more comfortable as a big spooky monster these past few days, but I figure I should still ask if he prefers a humanoid form. Everybody just gives me a really weird look though, including Matteo. I guess that's a no? I hedge. I would be less than comfortable in the body of a teenage girl, Matteo says slowly. And I suspect no one else would be comfortable with that either. For many reasons, Neto agrees, disapproval radiating at me from all sides. Okay, geez, I was just asking, I grumbled offensively. It's not like she's gonna be using it. Bentley starts to cry, and I take that as my cue to shut up. Humans are weird. I wait for Penelope to finish casting before addressing the next item we have to take care of before finally heading home from this bullshit journey. Matteo, Netta, what do you guys want to do? I can keep your souls safe until we find somewhere safe you can live. You can hang out in the forest if you want, or you could die, I guess. Forest, Netta answers immediately, and Matteo nods his agreement. Didn't I just say? A good hunter protects the city even in death. I nod. Good on them. Okay. You can't last forever like this, you will eventually degrade. We'll have to meet up every once in a while so I can feed you and keep you on your feet. You might be able to recharge by killing other undead, though, if you find any. Basically, smash them and you can take their soul dust. Otherwise, I can give you more of my soul to feed you. Don't worry, it doesn't really hurt me. They nod. You're of course free to come with me if you want, Orville, I tell him. Instead of visiting my family all the time, we can visit yours. He sighs, glancing between people, corpses, and those who are both. Not quite how I imagined it would go, Orville mutters to himself. I never had much use for all the money the Hunters Guild kept throwing at me, Netta grunts, but legally it's all yours now, Orville. My will is at the guild and it says you are your own man. He frowns. Thank you. Won't my heritage fuck with that? He asks. I'll make sure it doesn't, Penelope dismisses. There's no one better at abusing bureaucracy than my fiancé. You'll find the proper paperwork in your hands, Orville. One way or another. He nods a thank you and we finally depart for home, Bentley remaining silent for the rest of the trip. I wave goodbye to Netta and Matteo, and before long the walls of Skyhope are in sight. Many of the guards watch me nervously as we wait at the gate, Penelope grumbling about the inadequacies of the biomancer checking us for parasites. I grin at one of the gate workers giving me a worried look to try and put them at ease, but he jumps a little and quickly looks away. I guess that backfired. Oh well. We trudge through the streets of the city, returning to the guild and letting Orville give the report to our grim-faced branch leader. The loss of Netta, Alan, and Matteo is a heavy blow to the already struggling guild. I mostly don't bother to pay attention, a bit on edge from being watched by so many of my fellow scouts in the building. I know I feel dangerous and all, but this is getting ridiculous. When Orville is done and the branch leader grimly instructs us to stand by, Bentley finally speaks up. I would like to resign, sir, he stammers. The branch leader seems entirely unsurprised, too exhausted to put up an argument even with our lack of staffing. He's not the kind of man to beg someone to go die for him if they didn't volunteer. I've always liked our branch leader, frankly. He's a good man, trying his best to keep our city together in the places he can. Bentley's request is agreed to immediately, and our former teammate walks out, leaving Orville, Penelope, and I without anyone to act as a frontline. Well, I suppose I could do it, but I'm happy to not get sent on missions for a while. That one was rough. So Bentley leaves. Penelope begrudgingly makes her way to the infirmary, where I can feel Claretta currently managing things. Fulvia is nowhere within my range. Orville heads to his room, and I to mine, quickly stripping out of my armor before digging Roscoe out from under my pillow. I sit down on my bed, squeezing my stuffed bird as hard as I can, tentacles poking and prodding the inert souls inside my body. I don't feel like myself. The starving, tiny girl who panicked and tried to give the soul back to a man who nearly beat me to death is a distant, embarrassing memory. Nora's bed taunts me from across the room, thoughts of what I could have said to just make her listen dancing in the back of my mind, arguments replaying over and over. Nora. Huge, beautiful, reliable Nora. She was my friend. She was my teammate. She was my lifeline. A good person, through and through. But she just didn't believe me where it counted. She couldn't take the one step I needed her to take to stay friends. And now she's dead. I should feel sad, but I'm mostly just angry. Furious at her stubbornness and her stupidity, her inability to just trust me with my own life and the seriousness of the things I do. I suppose in some ways I can hardly blame her for not believing I know what I'm doing. So often, I really don't. Things just feel so out of hand, so out of my control. I keep trying to make the best choices I can, do the right thing as often as possible, and everything keeps blowing up in my face. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know how to be the Vita that grabs the reins of her own life that I want to be. It just feels like every step ends in disaster. At some point, I'm curled up on top of the bed, head on my pillow. At some point, I'm crying again. I hate this all so much. I hate my life, I hate my body, I hate this city, and I hate everything and everyone who keeps getting in my way. I wish I could just be free, take some time to think. Let everything slow down so I can figure out what I even am before deciding on all the things I need to do. But life just doesn't want to wait for me. I fall asleep, my pathetic body exhausted after days of fighting and travel with minimal rest. When I finally wake up, the darkness of an island above blackening my room, it's not to an emergency. It's just to the realization that for the last day and a half I seem to have forgotten to pee. I extract myself from bed with an uncomfortable grumble, my soul sight unbothered by the lack of light as I make my way through the building into the bathroom outside. I must spend at least half an hour there between exhaustion and constipation. I try to focus, trying to do what Penelope demanded I do and pay attention to my body. I can't just ignore this disgusting bag of flesh and organs that I regretfully require to house my true self. It used to be so much easier, even a month ago, but now it feels like trying to scrape myself raw. It can't ever truly be the same, not with the veins of energy extruding from my core and wrapping through each and every nook and cranny in the meat sack other people see as me. In some ways I seem stuck between either feeling too little of my body or feeling far, far too much. My soul wraps around my heart, feeling it beat. It twists within my stomach, the sloshing acid inside far more apparent to me now than could possibly be helpful. The kinds of things my mundane senses are explicitly designed to ignore are all too apparent to the new senses in my soul. And yet, the information that's actually helpful, the things my body needs to know in order to ensure that I function correctly, like pain and hunger and dizziness and bloat. These things do not have an equivalent soul sense. It's not that I'm avoiding paying attention to what my body tells me, it's that I seem to be forgetting how. I don't want to admit that, but I am. Like Nora said, I'm just getting more Vita-like. I don't know what that means, but I hope it hurries up. The euphoria I got from achieving this stage of my metamorphosis wore off days ago. Only the displeasure is left, the irritation of not knowing what I'm supposed to be but knowing without a doubt that this isn't it. I let air out of my lungs, and perhaps against my better judgment I delve back into the deep blue abyss of my soul. If I forget to breathe and start suffocating to death, hopefully falling into the toilet will wake me up. I pull at the mana, filling the spiritual veins and capillaries snaking through me as I trace their path backwards to the ocean of my true self. The channel is still too thin, too far. But for a single short minute, I can bask in the one part of myself that doesn't feel hideous and wrong. My meat falls forward, and with a gasp of breath I return to the grim immediacy of the bathroom. Finishing my business, I stand up and prepare to depart, a scowl on my face. Something powerful, dangerous, and very annoying has approached me in the time I was too distracted to notice, although I don't sense ill intentions from him, so perhaps that's why I didn't bother to acknowledge it. I open the bathroom door, willing myself to maintain focus on my body. "Do you often stalk young women using the restroom?" I ask, staring up at the sky. Or just at sky, rather. Please excuse my terrible timing, the mob boss answers, floating in the air a solid 10 feet above the rooftops. We both seem to have quite busy schedules, and it has been so difficult arranging a conversation with you. His soul just radiates ego. In some ways it's an invigorating sort of feeling, an arrogance built on a powerful enough backing to be almost attractive. Put a big emphasis on that almost, though. Even the stupid meat part of me that occasionally, annoyingly cares about such things finds little to appreciate in his almost comically feminine frame. He's floating at an angle that lets the coming light of dawn silhouette his body, I think for dramatic effect. Yet all it does is make me realize that he has fuller hips than I do. Not that it's much of a contest, but still. That's too bad, I say. Good night. Then I walk back into the guild house while he's still surprised, letting him fume. I'm tired, and fuck if I'm dealing with him before getting at least another 3 hours of sleep.